There were many enslaved blacks who served faithfully, and some fled during the Civil War, 1861 to 65. And they did for their own particular reasons that made sense to them in their own mind. Now let's get into Dr. Litwack's 1979 book, Been in the Storm So Long, The Aftermath of Slavery, and let's get a better view on these accounts here. Here we go. Overly pleased with the conduct and company of his body servant, a South Carolina master paid the highest compliment he could conceive.
"Why weren't you white? Why weren't you white? Why weren't you white?"
The body servant was a personal attendant, and this Negro slave did such a good job at this position that his master gave him the highest compliment he could think of, which was,
"Why weren't you white? Why weren't you white? Why weren't you white?"
Think about that. Let's continue. If the admonitions of some slave owners had been heeded, few of the body servants would have been provided with opportunities for wartime heroism. The usual procedure was to keep them behind the lines, not only to protect their lives, but to safeguard the owner's investments as well.
"I hear you are likely to have a big battle soon.
A Virginia slaveholder advised his son,
And I write to tell you not to let Sam go into the fight with you. Keep him in the rear, for that nigger is worth $1,000.
He didn't suggest his son go to the rear. He said keep Sam in the rear because that N-word was worth $1,000, which was a good chunk of change back in the 1860s. Despite such considerations, the body servant often found himself sharing with his master the ordeal of battle and enemy fire. Like the white soldiers in his camp, he reacted with conduct that ranged from hysteria and flight to feats of incredible bravery. The stories of how he stood steadfast by his master and the instances in which he risked his life to recover the body of his slain master and carted him home for a proper burial would be accorded a prominent place in post-war recollections and tributes. The good old times, war stories by the fire, passed down from generation to generation, lip to ear, on how well black slaves remained firmly committed to their master during the war. The intimacy and affection that bound servant and master in the army, like that which traditionally bound many house servants to the families residing in the big house, could not escape the ambivalence that underlay the relationships formed in slavery, meaning there were mixed emotions in their relationship on the battlefield, just like it was on the plantation. All slaves were not simply all love and affection with their master. While most body servants remained loyal and faithful attendants, earning the laurels accorded them, significant numbers did not. Most of them, Dr. Litwack suggests, did stay faithful, but a good portion did not. Let's hear something about this significant number that did not. In fact, some body servants calculatingly exploited the trust placed in them to desert to the Yankees at the first opportunity. They earned the trust of the master, made themselves appear faithful and super loyal to the cause. They buttered them up by acting the N-word. And the first opportunity they got, they jumped ship over to Yankee territory to freedom. Katie Darling, who had been a house girl on a plantation in Texas, recalled how her father ran away from
Massa Bill
while the two men were on their way to the battlefield.
Massa say when he come back from the war, that Triflin runway and joins up with them damn Yankees.
Gone, and there's nothing he can do about it either. Now the ex-slave doesn't have to hear someone calling him a trifling N-word anymore. Now watch this. Lieutenant Theodoric W. Montfort, a Georgia farmer and lawyer, considered his body servant, Prince, to be
a most excellent
attendant.
You would be surprised to see how well he can cook and wash and how neatly he can iron and put up clothes. He can do it as well as any woman. I don't think you will want any better cook, washer, and ironer than he is by the time the war is over.
The perfect servant, right? All that Lieutenant Montfort could ask for. But when the Yankees captured and then interned Lieutenant Montfort, his prize servant seized the opportunity to declare himself free. He took off. He played the N-word as long as he needed, and then he switched sides. Not only did some body servants desert to the Yankees, but they also provided them with information on the number and location of Confederate batteries. One such informer was subsequently recaptured, handed over to loyal servants for punishment, and reportedly
met a death at their hands more violent than any white person's anger could have suggested.
When Confederate military fortunes declined and rations ran short, most of the body servants had to be sent home to help raise the necessary food supplies. In returning to the plantations, They imparted to their fellow slaves not only war experiences but the conversations they had overheard around the campfires and from captured Yankees about the prospects of a Union victory and emancipation. Although the white South would still accord the body servant a place in the pantheon of Confederate heroes, his conduct had often revealed an ambivalence that the coming of the Yankees would make even more explicit in the occupied South. That conflict between fidelity to the master and the yearning for freedom would manifest itself in numerous ways and deeply trouble both whites and blacks, leaving a bewildered white South to ponder, for example, over the behavior of a body servant who risked his life to carry his wounded master to safety and then remounted the master's horse and fled to the Yankee lines. Uh-oh. Recalling his own experience, Martin Jackson, who had been a slave in Texas, spoke with considerable pride about the company in which he had served, but he made no effort to hide the conflict of loyalties he had felt.
Just what my feelings was about the war, I have never been able to figure out myself. I knew the Yanks were going to win from the beginning. I wanted them to win and lick us Southerners, but I hoped they was going to do it without wiping out our company.
So the reactions, thoughts, and feelings were all mixed, and for various reasons. Some people were genuinely faithful to their masters, and they would have given their lives at that, right? No doubt about it, 100%. That's just how they were raised. That's how they were trained. But there were others who played the part, and they had freedom in the back of their mind. So when the opportunity presented itself, they got out of there. They changed sides. And there's a lot of factors that went into these decisions, right? And so with that, we continue it to the next. I thank you right now for your time. My name is Brooklyn St. Michael, and I'll see you in the free world.